This is why you should never play Ding Dong Ditch. Back in the summer of 2015, there were a group of boys who were friends from school and decided to have a sleepover together. They'd just finished their year of high school and they wanted to have some fun, so they bought loads of sweets, candy, whatever they wanted, and sat down to watch some films. However, one of the boys named Mikey said, "Let's do something fun." They said, "What do you mean?" "Let's just watch some films, chill, you know." Mikey said, "Nah, let's go and scare some people." "But it's not Halloween, why would we do that?" "Well, you know Knock Down Ginger." "What's that?" "Well, Ding Dong Ditch, you know when you knock on people's houses and run away." "Right, okay." The boy said, "I'm not sure about this." Then the other boys said, "Yep, let's do it, sounds fun." So it got dark in the evening and the boys all set out to go and play Ding Dong Ditch. They then noticed a house which was new, and someone new had just moved into it, and they'd never spoken to these people before, so thought, "We've never met these people before, let's go and let's do it to them, yeah, why not?" So the boys walked over to the house and rung the doorbell. They then ran back and hid in a bush just outside of the house. Then a man walked out the front door and screamed, "What do you want? Stop knocking on my door or I will call the police." The boys just sat there chuckling away in the bush, thinking it was all some kind of joke. So when the man went back inside, another couple of the boys ran up to the door and rung the doorbell again. The man came out again. "What do you want? Trust me, little boys, you'll regret this." The boys stayed in the bush and were just laughing and laughing away when the man went back inside. And now they were really pushing their luck when they went back again and knocked on the door and rung the doorbell. The other boys noticed, though, that the man here didn't have a car, and it appeared to just be him in the house. And also this house was brand new. He was new in the house, but he had no moving in boxes, which they thought was a bit suspicious. However, they carried on knocking. Then again, the man came outside, however this time, very differently. The man was now holding a large double-barrel shotgun and said, "Come back, I dare you." And then said, "I'll find you, trust me." It was fair to say the boys were now pretty terrified, and as soon as the man went back inside, they legged it back home as quick as they possibly could. But when they did get back home, that was when things got even scarier and strange. All of them were now home alone because the boys' parents they were staying with had actually gone out for a meal. They sat there playing video games, watching films, and laughing about what had happened earlier because they just thought it was all quite funny. But they then got a knock at their door. One of the boys stood up and said, "Is that your parents?" He looked out and said, "No, there's no cars there." When they looked outside again though, they saw who it was. It was no one but the man, the one they played Ding Dong Ditch on. He was standing outside the window, staring in at the boys, and said, "I told you I'd come for you, didn't I?" He was holding a gun and was walking around the house looking for a way to get in. One of the young boys quickly called the police and said, "There's a man outside, he's got a gun, quick, get here now please, there's loads of us here." But they then heard a window smash and the man come in. The boys didn't have a choice but to leg it into the back garden and into the private forest. They absolutely legged it and hid in bushes, trees, whatever they could find just to get away from this man. But he was following them. They managed to run a loop all the way through the woods and back to the house, where thank God the police were waiting. When the man arrived back, they put him in handcuffs and arrested him. It turns out this man was actually an escaped prison convict who had just broken into this new house and decided to live there for a couple of days. But what was he in prison for, you ask? Murder. A few years ago, there was a young college student named Zoe. She was in her final semester of college and was studying engineering. One evening when she was returning home to her apartment, her friend Max called and said, "Hey Zoe, do you want to hang out, maybe go and grab some food or just chill or whatever?" Zoe said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds great, what time do you want me to meet you?" He said, "Oh, I'll come to your apartment around 6 or 7 tonight." So she hung up the phone and got ready. It was around 6 o'clock and she'd just got into the shower getting ready. But she left her phone outside of the bathroom, so she couldn't hear if Max rung, but she thought, it's not that big of a deal. If he rings, that means he's just outside, so he'll knock. Then when she was in the shower, she heard banging on her door. She said, "Max, the door's open, let yourself in, alright?" But the banging continued, and the door was open. "Max, just let yourself in, the door is wide open, okay?" She shouted out of the bathroom. But still, nobody actually entered, but the banging still continued on the door. She said, "Max, the door is open, can you not hear me?" Just let yourself in, okay? The banging just carried on constantly, but eventually a few minutes later she got out of the shower and got dressed. When she went over to the side though, she noticed that her phone had a load of missed calls from Max and texts. So she quickly called Max back and said, "Max, you idiot, the door's wide open, just let yourself in." He said, No, Zoe, you don't understand. Max, just let yourself in, the door's right there, why haven't you come in? Zoe, listen to me, okay? Yeah, I'm listening. That's not me outside your door. I'm outside of the apartment block. The girl was extremely confused and said, "But I heard you banging on the door." He said, "No." I don't know how to tell you this. Well, go on, just tell me. There was some woman carrying a knife, and she looked like she was covered in blood, walking into the apartment block. I tried to stop her, but she didn't look human-like. Zoe was now absolutely terrified, but the banging was still coming on her front door. So she plucked up the courage and went, "Max, I'll see you soon." No, Zoe, don't go. She hung the phone up and walked over to her front door. When she opened it, there was a woman standing there, and Max was right. She didn't look human-like. The strange woman covered in blood picked up her knife and said, "Goodbye, Zoe." Zoe screamed for help at the top of her lungs, but it was too late. But Max never found out who that woman was. In 2016, there was a young girl who was driving home from work. However, she stopped at the petrol station to fill up her car with some gas. She went into the petrol station, paid for her fuel, and obviously got a few crisps and drinks and whatever. She then returned back to her car, where she noticed the back door was slightly open. She thought, hang on, I only filled my car up, I didn't go in the back of the car, I never do, so why is that door open? However, she thought, I must have accidentally opened it when I went in to get my wallet or whatever, and just completely ignored it. However, things continued to get even stranger when she got in her car and pulled out of the gas station. Behind her was a massive lorry, like one of them ones that just goes between different countries transporting goods. A huge one. She thought, what's this doing here at this time at night, at a petrol station? Because it was just parked on the side of the road, not actually in the station. And then things got even stranger because the lorry then started beeping at the woman's car. She thought, why is he beeping at me? Oh, it's probably just a mistake. So she carried on driving down the highway. For around another 30 minutes, this truck was still behind her, following her, and still every couple of minutes, beeping his horn. She was now pretty creeped out and just thought, what does this guy want? Should I pull over and talk to him, or should I just go home? She thought, right, I'll just carry on. This guy's obviously made a mistake, thinks I'm someone else. But this guy had not made a mistake. The beeping carried on into the night. As she drove further and further, the lorry was still behind her and still beeping at her every couple of minutes. So she said, right, let's find a near lay-by, pull over and talk to this guy and just see what he wants. They were now driving through a really quiet, dark area with no one around. No towns, no shops, just those two on the road. She was of course pretty creeped out and didn't really want to stop in the middle of nowhere, but thought, I've got to find out what this guy wants, and she was pretty confident. But as they got to this area with no one around, the man in the lorry carried on, beep, 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 constantly, faster than he had before, constant non-stop beeping. She thought, right, I need to pull over, what is happening? Bang! A man then came from the back of her car and killed her. The hooded man in the back of the car pulled out a knife and tragically killed the young woman, who had done nothing wrong. But it explains the lorry driver. It turns out this lorry driver wasn't the bad guy. In fact, he'd just seen a criminal get in the back of the woman's car and therefore wanted to follow her and let her know there was someone in her car and she was at danger. However, he was too late. It turns out that the hooded man in the back of the car that killed the woman was eventually arrested. He was actually her ex-boyfriend, who was crazy and was actually a psychopath. He was diagnosed with it. He was literally a crazy guy, and when she dumped him, he said, "I'll kill you one day, Lorraine." And, well, he did. But he spent the rest of his life in a maximum security jail.